I know that logically, Halloween has ended, Halloween weekend has ended, but it's actually always spooky season if your heart is pure. If you've never seen me before, hi, my name is Gabby. I am an illustrator from Puerto Rico. Every October and May, I do a little art challenge. Usually the prompts are limited specifically in October. I usually do 13 prompts because it's a good way for me to make some personal art and stay motivated to do so. I work on it from September to October because I don't really care about doing it that specific day on the calendar. I only care that I finish it on the day that it's supposed to be posted, so that I have like motivation to actually finish a full piece of art. This year, however, was very tricky. I was really busy at work. I did KawaiiCon this year. Overall, I did not have the usual amount of time that I have in September to work on these. I didn't even make my own prompt list this year. Instead, I decided to follow Peachtober. I personally really admire the artists that created Peachtober. I follow them on here. I watch all of their videos breaking down how somebody can maybe interpret each of the prompts, even if I'm not personally participating in it. I think it's a really good way, once again, to motivate yourself to make art, but also to see how other people interpret things, especially because she tends to work in a very different style than me. So I think it's delightful to watch her create so many different pieces with 31 prompts. Like, I'm only doing 13. This is this year's prompt list for Peachtober, and from that list I selected the words slug, gingham, poppy, strawberry, aquarium, hatch, toad, web, spots, stripes, button, whisker, and ghost. For slug, I apologize in advance if you guys can hear random things happening outside of my bedroom. My entire family is here, and the dogs are running, and I think somebody has found a whistle of some sort. So whenever I participate in an art challenge, or I have a personal project that requires a lot of research, I tend to make my own little Pinterest board, and I divide everything into sections. So for slug, I tried to dump in anything that I could think of whenever I thought of the word slug. Mostly I literally just put in random pictures of slugs, or somebody looking a little too moist. I decided that I wanted slug to be more kidlit, and so what it actually ended up becoming was a child. I gave them their own name. It's in my sketches. I didn't actually write it down in the finished piece, so I don't remember it right now, but I think her name was Sloan, something like that, because I wanted something that had the SL at the front with slug. Whatever, I decided that this character is really obsessed with their own pet slug, and they wanted to dress up as them for Halloween, and so their mother made them a handmade slug costume out of a comforter. I don't necessarily know if that translated just yet, but because it was the first one, I think I just wanted to push something out, and this is it. I feel like it's not my favorite of the bunch, but it is still kind of cute, so slug. Prompt number 2 was gingham, and I knew that I wanted to make something cute. You know, I didn't really care for the slug prompt. Like, it was fine, but I wanted something that felt more like me, and I wanted it to feel Halloweeny because I'm not gonna lie, I felt kind of bummed out this year because this is like my prime season. This is where I usually feel the best, but this year felt kind of off because since we're in the process of figuring out when we're gonna move and packing things away, and people came to see the house, I wasn't allowed to decorate the house. So I drew this. I think it's really cute. I decided to stick to a more simple color scheme. You can't really see it on here, but when you like zoom in on my iPad, everything's like nice and kind of crunchy. I'm obsessed with the idea of someday getting to illustrate a kid's book that's based around Halloween. I would love to be able to do that someday. Number 3 is Poppy, and I knew instantly that I wanted to make something that was based around the Wizard of Oz. This one is also a simpler one. I painted this while I was literally tabling at KawaiiCon. My references for this one were literally just a bunch of pictures of lions and some old Wizard of Oz illustrations, and honestly, I didn't reinvent the wheel. It's cute, you know? It's Dorothy and the Cowardly Lion when they fall asleep, but right before the mouse, the Queen of Mice, is that her official title? I can't remember right now. Before she's able to help them and drag them away. That is not in the movies. I realized later that I omitted Toto because he was in my original sketch. I don't know why I didn't include him in this one. I don't really think it detracts from the illustration. I'm just a little bummed out that I didn't think about that until now. Prop number 4 was Strawberry, and I love this board. Can't say that I ever knew where I was going with it. I didn't know if I wanted to make a character, if I wanted to just draw food, because I do like drawing food. I didn't know if I wanted it to be a companion piece to my other Drawloween prompt, which was this one, like a little bakery witch. I also briefly considered it being another companion to a different Drawloween prompt, which was this one. This is the witch from Hansel and Gretel. I love, this is kind of a tangent, I love the horror aspect of Hansel and Gretel, and I feel like there aren't many movies that I think really sell that to me. Like, there's been attempts, they're not my favorite, and I think one of the main reasons that they fall short for me is that they never want to do anything fun with the food. And when they do something cute with the food, it's always like modern sweets, like Twizzlers or big old lollipops, things like that. And when I think of the fact that this is like an old story, I try to like imagine them having all of these like really sweet baked goods, like macarons or like cream puffs or like tarts and cakes and cupcakes maybe. I don't know how old cupcakes are, whatever, those kinds of things. And I kept playing around with it, but the more I messed with it, the less I wanted the witch to look like either of the witches I had drawn before. And then I was like, is she even really a witch? And then I thought of that scene from Adventure Time. It's been a while, so I don't really remember the context of it, but Finn and Jake across a table full of baked goods, but it's actually rotting. I hope I'm remembering this correctly and I didn't just invent like a fever dream in my head. Food is like a big thing with fairies. Like, they like to tempt you into eating food, and kind of like a contract, like by eating the food you have sold like a part of yourself.
I take the fruit.
So I ended up making this character because I thought it would be really interesting if, let's say this is a Beauty and the Beast scenario. This is the narrative that I have given this character. Let's say that it's like a Beauty and the Beast scenario, right? And you have traveled and you're lost and you really need shelter and food, and you come across this like palace or something in the woods and no one is there except for this random lady. I don't know if I want to call her a witch or a fairy or what have you. Point is, she's not right. And I feel like it would be really interesting if she barely speaks to you at all, but she has this like feast of food that she herself will not touch, right? And something is off about that, but everything looks really, really good and you're starving. And you can't tell me that you wouldn't want a slice of this chocolate cake. Prompt number 5 was aquarium. And I wanted to draw a mermaid. My idea was to reverse it, and instead of it being a regular aquarium scene where a mermaid is trapped in an aquarium and people are gawking at her, I thought it would be really funny if a pirate or a sailor who got shipwrecked, and when they wake up they are underwater in what is essentially a zoo, and it's because the mer people are researchers and doctors in their own right, but they don't speak the same language, and so they are treating this human person the way that one would treat a panda, you know? And they're actually taking pretty good care of him. You know, he's fine, he's not ill. He's still wearing the same clothing, but that's because they don't know anything about human beings' clothing. But they feed him, and as the mermaid tour guide says in this little comic, he is enriched in his enclosure. Hopefully, when he feels better, they're gonna release him back into the wild. I think this one came out really nicely. I also used other brushes for texture. I wanted the coloring to look more like a vintage comic book, but like my way, and not usually my style, but I think it came out really cute. Prop number 6 is hatch, and for hatch there's a lot of different ways that you can interpret that word. My gut reaction was like an egg hatching. This is also one of the ones that I started sketching when I was at a convention, and I didn't have the brain power for pretty much anything else. So the aliens aren't as creative as I would like them to be, but I was running on fumes, if I'm gonna be real honest with you. I feel like if I had more time to myself this month, I definitely could have spruced this up a bit. I don't think it's a bad idea for the prompt. It's just not as creative as I would have liked it to be. Next is toad. First thing I thought of was a toad in a wizard hat. And frankly, I think I should have just drawn that. I made this little like witch character in a cloak of leaves because I imagined her to be like a forest spirit lady wandering around lakes and rivers and creeks with her little toad companion. Toad familiar, if you will. And it's cute. It's okay. I don't think it's a character that I'm going to be revisiting. I do think I should have just made the toad character the way that I drew my Puss in Boots character. I think that would have been more successful, and it's definitely something that I think I'm going to do in the next coming months. Prompt number 8 is probably my favorite ever. This one is web. If you were there when I was working at Feria de Comics, then you know that I had like my big sketchbook with me, and you might have seen me trying to figure out the design for these girls. I had a section in my Pinterest board from a completely different Drawloween that I never used, and it was a pageant queen. I think I wanted to do something like Carrie, maybe like prom queen, and then I never used it, and I just combined the two, and I thought it would be really funny if it could be like Miss World Web, World Wide Web, Miss Web, something like that. And I think it came out really nice. I had a lot of fun making it. I decided that all of the 3 women were going to be inspired loosely by a different kind of spider, because I didn't necessarily want to give them like different countries to represent. I wanted them to represent like different breeds of spider. I have one that's supposed to be based off of a tarantula. I have one that's supposed to be based off of a black widow spider, and then the one that won is supposed to be like a common house spider, because I thought she could be like the underdog in the pageant.
It's a tough one. I'd have to say April 25th.
I think the board itself is really interesting because you have pictures like this of a random pageant contestant next to goth fashion. What would the fashion look like if you're like a spider lady, you know? I wanted all of them to have some kind of webbing or some kind of homage to what kind of spider they were. And fun fact, the dress that I gave the former winner, who is like crowning the newest winner, the dress that she has on is like loosely inspired by this dress that Christina Ricci wore, I think, to the Met Gala when I was in like middle school or high school, something like that, because I remember seeing this dress for the first time and gasping at its like gothic sleigh, only for every single one of the judges on Fashion Police to rip it to shreds because it's just not her color, it does nothing for her. And I'm like, Christina Ricci in a goth gown does nothing for her. Get out of my face. And that's haunted me for the rest of my life. Pretty sure based entirely off of this photo, and you know, I think I remember it being addressed by Zach Posen. So Zach Posen, if you're out there, I saw the sleigh. I saw it for what it was, and it was a sleigh. The text on the bottom just says, Miss Common House was announced to be the winner of Miss World Web Arachnid Beauty Pageant. Miss Black Widow is the runner-up. And I think they're so cute. Prop number 9 was Spot. Spot can be anything, you know? I didn't know if I want to do like a creature with spots, like spot as in like, I know a spot, I know a place. Spot this character. I didn't know where I was going with it, and so I was just like shoving anything into this board until I thought of some kind of old vintage ad, like this will get spots out of anything. If you guys follow me on TikTok, not many people saw this video, but like one of the movies that I cannot stand, and I apologize if you're a fan, I just need to get this off my chest, is the 2004 version of The Stepford Wives. I hate this movie. And whenever I tell people that, they think that it's because I hate fun and I hate camp. And that can't be further from the truth. My issue with it is that it feels almost insulting to the original themes of both the 70s movie and the book. It's a tragedy that this female character doesn't survive. They get her.
You are different. Your figure's different. Your face, what you talk about, all of this is different. Yes, this. It's wonderful.
The way that they write the husbands in it, as if they're like ultimately harmless.
Because she's not a science project. Because I didn't marry something from Radio Shack.
That's a shame.
No. That's a man.
And that the real villain is like Glenn Close. It's just...
All of this, Mike, the wives, Stepford, this was all your idea?
Yes. All I wanted was a better world.
It doesn't sit right with me. I made like cleaning ads from the perspective of the robots that they created. What if one day even the robots snap and they kill off the husbands? But because they're robots, they're still acting like everything's normal. Let's say that they clean up the murder of these men and they just end up still living in that suburb like normal, except now their daughters, because this is also another tragedy to me about Stepford Wives, is the fact that a lot of these men have daughters, and I always got really sad whenever I would read the book, because I was like, sure, they got rid of their wives, what's gonna happen when their daughters have thoughts and feelings and opinions of their own, and they can recognize that their mothers aren't their mothers anymore? Are they going to do the same thing to their daughters? Are their daughters going to be able to escape? And so I was thinking to myself, like, what if they can eventually reprogram the robots? I'm just ranting at this point. Prop number 10 was Stripes, and like with Spots, I was in a similar position because Stripes is so vague. I just started filling up the board and thinking about what kind of characters would be wearing these outfits, like stripy tights. Then I started including stripy little outfits like these. I think one of my first ideas was that I wanted it to be a family of werewolves. Another idea that I had was making the character like a vampire hunter who wears these like very like masculine stripy outfits, and maybe they have like a scar. Ultimately, I saw Steen's version of the Sleepy Hollow dress, and so I just made like a little vampire lady. And the more that I worked on it, the more messy I liked the stripes to be, because I was using I think the Nico Roll brush, which is a tried and true brush. It's one of my top 3. And I love how scratchy it is. Like, even if you use it at 100% opacity, it's never going to be like flat. I think it's really pretty. Prompt 11 is button. I thought of buttons like the kind you pin to your shirt, like the I voted buttons, ribbon buttons, like those little ones where you win like a prize. Vintage buttons like this one that says mayor, phrases like cute as a button. And then eventually I started seeing vintage pictures of little girls with like dolls. And then I thought of Claudia from Interview with the Vampire, and then I saw pictures of Bailey Bass when she would have been biblically accurate Claudia. And so I ended up just making a little girl because she's cute as a button with little dolls. And though I know that the dolls would be like porcelain dolls, objectively it would be cuter and it would fit the prompt more if she had little rag dolls with button eyes. And I saw old toys like this, really simple, but they did have button eyes. And so here you are, vampire child. Number 12 is Whisker, and this is actually one of the first prompts that I did. I think this was supposed to be posted on the 28th of October, and I did in fact finish it on the 29th, and so I was like, I'm not gonna post it, I'll wait. But yeah, Whisker, cats. I thought of cute little cats. I wanted it to be like, you know that scene where Huey, Dewey, and Louie are trick-or-treating? I wanted something like that, but with cats, and I tried to put them in vintage Halloween costumes. I looked at a lot of mid-century cat illustrations, and a lot of them, they are jesters or clowns. I made the original one, which is like a clown, and I wanted the other ones to have other iconic Halloween costumes. I didn't want them to match, but I wanted the shapes to be somewhat similar. I wanted them to be in non-tight fitting clothing. While I was making this, I was actually watching a very silly Vincent Price movie, so I think perhaps those were just the vibes. And lastly, Ghost. I wanted something super simple because this was actually the last drawing that I made, and I always have ghost things in my boards, but I never feel like I do them justice. As much as I love a good ghost story, as much as I love gothic lit with ghosts, I don't know what about it. It's very difficult for me to like represent them visually without feeling tropey. Okay, I always go for the Halloween costume sleigh, woman in a white gown holding a candelabra. I blame Crimson Peak. Even though she wasn't even the ghost, I blame Crimson Peak. Still ended up making a lady with a candelabra. I had like old homes, I had seances, vintage illustrations of ghosts. I did consider making something for Christmas Carol just because I thought that would be like a good transition from spooky season to, you know, the winter holidays. But at the same time, I didn't want to make anything related to Christmas just yet. I wanted to preserve Halloween for just a little bit, and so I didn't go in that direction, but it is something that I thought of. I didn't want to necessarily make fan art, but I thought if I used a character that already existed to sort of play around with style-wise, it could be easier. I ended up making the bride, Sally Slater, the little ballerina from the stretching room, and I know that there's more ghosts. I know that there's more female ghosts that I could have picked. I did consider making the one that's in the portrait, the Catwoman, but I ended up just going for the uniform that the employees wear, because I always loved whenever the employees took it a little too seriously and they acted like they were like chained to the mansion, or they were ghouls working in the mansion. And so I was like, ghosts. They are also ghosts. I think obviously out of the three, in my opinion, the bride is the most successful one. So those were all 13 of the prompts that I decided to make for October. Usually I'm not this unorganized with it, but life got in the way. I'm just happy that I was able to finish all of them, and I genuinely did like most of them. I do have quite a few on here that I think could just be portfolio pieces right now. I can turn it into something later if I wanted to. I am happy with this body of work, and I like that it was kid lit-y, but it was still spooky. At least the ones that were supposed to be more kid lit, not the ones that had a lot of blood. So thank you so much for watching this video. I know it's not as formal as my other art challenge videos are. Usually I'm over there at my desk, but you can't see it from here. I got a bunch of stuff over there, and frankly I don't feel like moving it around just to film this video. And so I hope you're okay with this, with me sitting crisscross applesauce on my bed and you on a pile of books. I hope you're okay with that. I know I usually say this in my intros for my other videos, but I like to use this channel to mainly share my art, talk about art, share my art process with you guys. I love doing it. But if you are here more for my like yappy book videos, then don't worry, I do have more coming soon. I am going to film a Wicked video tomorrow. I told myself I wasn't gonna get involved with Oz again, but I have Wicked on the brain since Act 2 is coming, and I have thoughts about the little Easter eggs that were sprinkled into Wicked, and I'm gonna be making that soon, so hopefully it'll come out before Wicked Part 2 comes out. We'll see. And I am starting to work on my drafts for the Narnia video that I promised you guys months ago. I've read the books again. I read all of the books. I have thoughts that I didn't think I was going to have before I started reading the books. I don't necessarily know if I'm going to be talking about the religious imagery as much as I thought I was going to, but we'll see where the draft takes me, and hopefully that will come out either by late November or December, because I want those out before the end of the year. If you have any thoughts, questions about my art style, my process, please let me know in the comments. If you have any suggestions for how I can spruce up some of the illustrations that I think left me wanting more. We all know what my favorite was, but let me know which one of these 13 illustrations was actually your favorite.
And friendly reminder that I will be opening up my commissions again this month for the holidays. So if you would like a portrait, an art history style portrait, a pet portrait, a silly little pet portrait / art history commission, I am available and I would love to do that for you.
Thanks for watching.